Okay, there we go. Once again, sorry for the little bit of a technical hitch. Thank you so much for inviting me to speak at this event. I'm still desperately disappointed that I couldn't be there in person, but yeah, let's see how this goes. Hope it's an interesting talk. I hope you guys, yeah, hope there's some interesting questions or some light bulb moments. So, acts of heresy. So this is something I put together over the last 10 years. So I've been around agile transformations and in the agile space for the better part of a decade. And it's more or less just the sum of my observations so far. So I thought I would share it with you guys, and let's see how it lands, and let's see how you feel about it, and if it's like rattle some cages and get some crazy thoughts going, then that would be that's exactly what I'm looking for. So a little bit about myself. My name is Stephen de Villiers Graaf. I'm a methodologist and a coach. I'm a founding member and partner of Gravity Works Consulting. So we've been around for just closing in on 2.5 years now. But the three leadership, the three of us in the leadership group, we've been in agile transformations for the better part of a decade. Come from varied backgrounds. So I'm very much from a software development background. My partners are from project delivery and from marketing. But we've all got this passion for looking at transformational spaces and approaching it a little bit differently than our competitors do. Let's put it that way. So yeah, let's jump in and take a look at this heresy thing. So a little while ago, when I was starting to put this talk together, I actually started thinking about heresy and like, where did it come from? So the definition that you get in a dictionary is a belief or an opinion contrary to orthodox doctrine. So that was kind of, I thought that was quite it was quite expected. Let's put it that way. It didn't really jump out at me. I thought, well, yeah, there's a rich history of heretics around the world. But then I started digging into it a little bit more. And what really surprised me was it was derived from the Greek heresis or hereomai, which means choice or to choose. And the things that jumped out at me there when I really started thinking about heresy from that point of view was that heretical acts are deliberate. It's a deliberate choice. It's not something that we do by accident. We're not likely to oppose a flow unaware or unconsciously. It just doesn't work that way. Like if we decide to go against the flow, it's a conscious decision, and it's something that we do, and we understand that we'll probably pay for it in some manner or form, which I think is exciting, and I think it's probably one of the few ways that the world actually moves forward. By people opposing things that other people take for truth. So the other thing, just thinking about it, the other thing that I thought was that the great heretics actually paid for their views. They really paid, and in many cases they paid with their lives. But they stood with them no matter what the cost, and they did it for the benefit of others, not for themselves. I think this was where my thought really started moving in terms of heresy. Like, why is this important, and why do we need to think this way? Why do we need to approach transformation and agility in this manner? And that was the one thing that really stood out for me. It's not just for the sake of opposing a belief or opposing an opinion. It really is for the benefit of others and not yourself. I mean, of course, you do benefit from it, but it really typically is for the benefit of others. So what I was thinking then was, I thought, well, let's take an example of a probably one of the best known heretics ever, Galileo Galilei. So in 1633, he was actually brought to trial for the crazy thought, or presenting the crazy thought, that the Earth actually revolved around the sun. So he was brought to trial. He was tried by Father Vincenzo Ferenziola, and he was in a lot of trouble. During that time, the standard practice was imprisonment. You were secluded from everyone during your trial. And this was like the second time he was in trouble, which I thought was amazing, because in those days, if you were tried for heresy, chances are you were going to get burnt at the stake. We don't have quite that high a stake, these days. We're not going to get burnt for our beliefs, but well, not physically. Let's put it that way. But yeah, he basically opposed this immutable fact that the Earth was the immovable center of the universe. It was an absolute fact, and it could not be disputed. And the world believed it. And if you said anything different, you were in trouble. So you can imagine like the things at stake there. Eventually, just because of his age and because of his status, he got off relatively lightly. He was prohibited from publishing his work ever again, and he was under house arrest for the rest of his life. And I was thinking about this, and I was like, well, if it wasn't for him and people like him challenging these trains of thought, we would be so stagnant. We would be caught in this trap of what we think is true, which made me think of a quote by Mark Twain, who said, "It's not what you don't know that gets you into trouble. It's the things that you believe for sure that just ain't so." And this is I think the essence of heresy, and why we need to challenge things. Why we absolutely need to challenge things, why we need to do this, and we need to deliberately oppose the flow to move thoughts and actions forward. The absolutely insane thing, it took the church 300 years to admit that Galileo was right, which is like absolutely insane. So in the 20th, it took up to the 20th century for the church to basically admit to something that at that time was common knowledge. So this is the type of resistance that we can encounter in trying to drive new ideas forward. And in the space that we find ourselves in, agile transformation, we run into a lot of cases where we find that the Earth is the immovable center of the universe, and we have to challenge that. We have to be brave enough to challenge that, understanding that may result in us being burnt at the stake. So one of those classical examples that we can really start to focus on, and that quote, "and yet it moves," just showed the amount of just deliberate heresy Galileo was prepared to undertake. Because as he walked out of the Inquisition, he apparently mumbled that under his breath, "and yet it moves." So he promised not to spread the heretical thoughts anymore, but he could not remove them from like his inner being, his soul. So diving into some of the heretical thoughts that I've had over the last few years, I've really looked at the concept of agile and agility, and things that start to really land with me is this concept of things that you can buy, but there's things you absolutely need to own. And I freely admit that I've got a number of pieces of paper that I've bought behind my name, but it's taken a lot of years and a lot of hard experience to understand that those pieces of paper are only the beginning. Neil deGrasse Tyson actually, he tweeted just a couple of weeks ago something that really kind of underlined my feeling around this. He said, "As my knowledge grows, so does the perimeter of my ignorance." And this for me, it landed so hard. And this is one of the traps that we fall into, and one of the things that we need to challenge very strongly is this concept that we may be able to buy agility, through certification, through training, but it is really just ground zero. Experience is what we're looking for, and for me, experience is it's the name that we give our mistakes. One of the things that I've learned, and like through a lot of experience and a lot of experiments that I've run, a lot of things that I've tried, a lot of things that have failed, a lot of things that have been surprisingly successful, is that following the rules is actually only one possible strategy. And this is yet another thing when we're thinking about transforming an entire organization and all the people within the organization, following the rules, following the rule book, the blueprint, the framework is actually only one possible strategy, and it's a very limiting one at that. The amazing thing that I found around human beings and people in systems is we will find ways around the rules. We'll find our way around the rules anyway. So if that's going to happen, then let's start bending them. Let's start putting a bit of flexibility into those rules. Let's help people find the way around the rules, because we might just find a better way. One of the classic things there is just watch children. You put rules in place, they will find ways around them, and they do with the greatest of delight. And in that space lies the magic. As far as I'm concerned, rules are always subject to a good question. So thinking about framework, question every piece of that framework. There are pieces in there that are really good. And it doesn't matter which framework. I mean, like I know there's like the religion of Scrum and the religion of Safe. And this is where we fall short in many cases. We don't question enough. We go, yes, well, that's in the Scrum guide, or yes, that's in the Safe big picture. And we don't question, why is it in the big picture? Why should it be in the big picture? Is that something that we should change? Is that something we should do? Is there a better way? Take a piece of it, apply it differently. One of the things that we cannot buy, and we never will be able to. It's like we can't buy passion, we can't buy curiosity, we can't buy experience, we can't buy excitement. All of these things, we need to be able to create a space where those things happen organically. And I think this is where I think we miss a trick. We look for the stack of paper, the stack of certifications going, we know all of this, and we ignore the fact that area of knowledge that we've now covered has just increased our perimeter of ignorance. For me, looking at that perimeter of ignorance is where the sweet spot is. It's like the concept of libraries and anti-libraries. What you know is your library. What's more interesting is your anti-library, the places that you need to explore, the places that you can explore. And I think that's where sometimes we need to be a little bit heretical. We need to look at agility rather than agile. We need to understand that in some cases we simply can't buy it. We have to earn it. And in earning it, we may make some spectacular mistakes, but that is exactly what we need. If we weren't allowed to make mistakes, we'd never learn how to talk. We'd never learn how to walk. So this for me is my first heresy. The next heresy is authority versus autonomy, and I think this is another place where we almost fall on the extremes of either side. So it's that fine line between enablement and anarchy. So autonomous, for me, is not as autonomous as we think it is. I think in many cases, people see autonomy as like this hermetically sealed room, put the people in there and like seal it up, and that's it. And they should be able to function by themselves and without the noise and all that. And like, to a point that happens, but what we're missing out on is the opportunity to rather create bounded systems. So really think about, how do we create a space that has a clear boundary, but that boundary has porous edges, because beyond that boundary is where all the novelty lies, where the new ideas lie, where the things that are in that space, you start to cover each other's blind spots and start to eat up into your anti-library very quickly. So how do you create a bigger anti-library? So create the autonomy through bounded spaces, but with porous edges, so that people can get that novelty seeping in from different spaces. They can create new connections and allow new ideas to flow in. And those ideas can be challenged, they can be adopted, they can be rejected, but at least they're new ideas, rather than creating this fabricated, hermetically sealed space. One of the things there about creating that bounded system that I think is super important, and like this is where I think we fall short as well. We think about autonomy, We think, well, okay, authority. We don't want this strict hierarchy. We want to make teams autonomous and allow them to make decisions, but then we don't support them. We don't create a space where they're supported to be autonomous. And it's autonomy without boundaries is literally a vacation. So you might as well just go and lie on the beach. What we need is purpose. We need focus. We need that bounded system that the team is supported within, so that it can start to make decisions within a space that makes sense. So autonomy versus authority. One of the books I read a little while ago by David Marquet, Turn the Ship Around. He had an amazing idea that he shared in the book about how you move the authority to the information, which I thought was an amazing idea. And it actually, what it does, it fosters that bounded system. It's, I will support you to make those decisions, but I'm not going to make them for you because the information is in your space. So how do I support you to make those decisions? And even if those decisions are scary or those decisions are wrong, I'm supporting you. I'm creating the space you can do that. So moving authority to the information. And the classic example he gave was, I think it was the first day or two that he was on his new ship. They approached him to sign off shore leave for people that were working in the. And he basically said, look, I don't know. I can't make that decision. I don't know whether they need to be here or not, but you do. So make the decision and I'll support your decision. And that for me is creating a bounded system, a supported bounded system where we've got purpose, we've got focus, we've got the information, we are closest to the information to make those decisions, and we are allowed to make those decisions, and we supported in that decision-making space. So once again, it's like really finding a way to let go. That autonomy is not something that you give to someone, it's something you let go of. So very, very different way of looking at things, and another possibly heretical way to do that. So as a leader, how do you support? How do you let go? How do you support that space? How do you create that bounded system? So facts and fables. I've seen so many times that there's cases where people want to track their agile journey and how far are we? Have we arrived? Are we agile yet? Are we 75.621% done? How do we know that we've crossed the line? And the scary thing there is you simply can't measure things that way, and you don't cross the line ever. There is no linear progression. There's no neat logical line. And thinking about those destinations and those journeys and all the fuzzy bits in between, it really is about favoring the messy truth over the pretty lies. So in many cases, we create like amazing templates, amazing metrics, huge, fantastic, awesome, color-coded dashboards. But what we're seeing is pretty lies. We're not seeing the messy truth. So how do we get into that space where we're comfortable with the messy truth? And understanding that agility is not this, it's not this A, B, C, D, E progression. It's about making decisions on a daily basis, where the ultimate thing is, are those decisions making things easier for our people and for our customers? Are we creating a space where value, information, knowledge, and all of these good things flow easier? Now that's agility. It's making those decisions. And the thing that we miss in many cases is those decisions are incredibly difficult and they're taxing. And the people who we are asking to make those decisions are going to be in a situation where they're going to go, well, I don't want to do this anymore. This is difficult for me. So how do we support them? How do we create a space where they can do that? And it is sustainable, that there is no nirvana that we can reach, that over time, we are just going to be better than yesterday. And that's all we need to do. We don't need to be Steve. We don't need to put a dent in the universe. We just have to be better than yesterday. And tomorrow, we just have to be better than today. And if you do that enough, if you keep making those decisions enough, we will eventually get to an amazing space. But we still need to make those decisions on a daily basis just to keep in that amazing space. The story that I stumbled across around the difficulty of decisions was it's actually quite interesting. It goes where this guy approaches a farmer and he says, "Look, I need a job. I really do. I'm willing to do anything." And the farmer says to him, "Great, well, cool. Come over here. I need you to chop all this wood. Chop the wood up, saw it up, make it into burnable logs that I can put in my fireplace." And the guy gets to work and he starts chopping wood and he works the whole day. The farmer eventually comes to the guy at the end of the day and he finds this, he's chopped everything. He's chopped everything. Everything's in neat stacks, everything. He's done that. There's nothing left to do. And the farmer is so impressed. He's like, "This is amazing. You've got a fantastic work ethic. Please come back tomorrow." He comes back tomorrow and the farmer says, "Look here, I've got a big farm. I've got lots of fences. Some of the fences have fallen over. I want you to fix as many fences as you can. Just walk around the perimeter, fix fences." Goes away, end of the day, comes back. The guy has fixed everything. He's walked the perimeter of the farm. He's fixed every single fence that he needs, that he could fix. Everything is done. The farmer's like, "This is incredible. Please come back tomorrow. I love your work ethic. I love the way you approach things." So he comes back the next day, and the farmer takes him to he goes, "Look here, we get potato. I need you to keep all these potatoes and I need you to sort them into big potatoes. We sell potatoes seeding, and then potatoes just use it all. So into the tree." Comes back at the end of the month, job is done. The guy says to him, "Look here, this is fantastic, but I'm not coming back tomorrow. I'm just not coming back tomorrow." The farmer is distraught and he says, "But you're such a great worker. Please come back tomorrow. Like you've got a fantastic work ethic." And the guy said to him, "Look here, chopping wood, it's tiring, mending fences, but this potato thing, it's decision after decision after decision. And this is agility. Agility is sorting out those potatoes on a day-to-day basis, and it is tiring, it's taxing. So how do we create a space where people can make decisions and that it isn't an A, B, C, D, E linear progression? We need to put that to sleep. It's not happening, and it never will. So hierarchy versus networks. This is another thing that I think we choose to ignore. So we see our beautiful hierarchical structure. We see our org chart, and we think that that's what our company looks like, what our organization looks like, what our teams look like, and it's not. We're actually a collection of networks, and that's our true structure, whether we like it or not. And the problem is, what we don't see when we focus on a hierarchical structure and this neat, beautiful representation of departments and this neat collection of teams under a manager and all of these things. What we don't realize is information, knowledge, and value do not flow through that structure. They can't. They do not flow through that structure. Information, knowledge, and value are like water, and they will find the quickest path. And there is nothing we can do about it. We cannot enforce that hierarchy. It is going to happen. It's going to flow like water, and it will find the quickest path. People will find people to connect to get the job done. Now, we can choose to pay attention to this and optimize it, or choose not to. If we don't optimize it, it happens anyway, but it happens suboptimally. So how about we just get a little bit heretical about that and understand that our hierarchy, no matter how pretty it is on paper, is not what our organization looks like. Let's start paying attention to how our organizations are really structured, the networks within networks, the formal networks that we've helped to create, the people that are hubs of information, the people that broker connections between other pieces of the network. We need to start paying attention to how our people connect, and not the structure that we think we've put them into. So it's one of those things where, as a leader and as a person that pays attention to how information, knowledge, and value flow through a space, we need to understand that at best we are support. We are holding threads or connecting threads or allowing flow, but we need to see it to understand it to make it happen. And one of the things that I've seen, which is incredible, is once you see this, you can't unsee it. You'll never see your hierarchy again, and you'll really start to understand, well, how do I connect people together? How do I need to shift teams around optimize this incredible flow of value, information, and knowledge? Where do I need to broker gaps that sit between important hubs of knowledge? How do I do that? So if we're not paying attention to it, we'll never be able to do that. One of the things as well, just thinking about this hierarchy thing and looking at typical structures where people really try to control things, because hierarchy is about nothing except control. What we're trying to do is we're trying to chain our people to what we see as success. And one of the classical examples that I've stumbled across in that space is like a Roman trireme, where they chain the slaves to the ship, and basically they got the slaves to row very effectively because their lives were associated with how well they rowed, because if the ship went down, they weren't going anywhere, they were chained. But the problem is, given human nature and pushed hard enough, people would probably stop just to see the expression in your face. And at that point, you're going to go down with your ship, which is not pleasant. So how do we not do that? Because that's not optimal. We're not focusing on our people. We're not focusing on the health of our people and the health of our knowledge and our information flows and our value for our customers. So how do we start focusing on what really exists? And that is the network structure within our organizations. And if we start paying attention to it, we can optimize it. So that's, once again, a little bit heretical, because we're starting to challenge things that have happened for hundreds of years. But quite honestly, it's all about control, and we need to shift away from that. So another heresy, just to think about. What I was thinking as well was, we can try all of these things, we can pay attention to all of these things, but it's not enough. And this is one of my favorite quotes by Hunter S. Thompson. We can't stop here. This is bad country. And we don't want to catch ourselves in bad country by thinking we've arrived, that we've paid attention to purpose and focus. We've paid attention to flow. We've now got our heads into a space where we understand that agility is not a linear progression. We're supporting our teams around how they make decisions. So we're doing all these good things, but that's not enough. If we stop there, we're really stopping in the middle of bad country. So what do I mean by bad country, and like avoiding bad country? So one of the first things that jumped to mind was, we need to define ourselves by what we love and not by what we oppose. So if we looking at how we're approaching our transformation, focus on the things that really blow your hair back, the things that you're passionately excited about, rather than the things that you don't want to see, because the passion will pull other people along. Just opposing things, it's not good enough, because people follow passion, they follow purpose, they don't follow playbooks, they don't follow blueprints. But if they can see the passion and they can see the purpose, they will chase that. It ignites things in people. One of the things that I've learned over the years is, you cannot possibly lead someone to a place that you're not willing to go yourself. So understanding that to be believable, you need to believe. To create a passionate space around you, you need to be passionate. So you cannot define yourself by the things you oppose, because that's not passionate. It's the things that get you up in the morning, the things that like ignite you, the things that excite you. These are the things that will draw people after you. And agility is not something that happens to someone else. So taking all of that into account is like, you cannot mandate agility. You can't get people, you can't tell people to go there. It's not something that you can buy. It's not something that you can like just point the way and expect people to do it. You actually have to jump in and live it and lead and believe it and ignite people around you. The other thing, and I've seen this so many times as well, is while looking at other companies that do this exceptionally well, like you think about like the Spotifys of the world, or the Netflix, or the Pixars, Google, you can use them to learn, but you're not them. And this upsets people in some cases where like, well, we're following the Spotify model. That's wonderful, but you're not Spotify. Find your own way. It's more important to find your own way. Use them as examples, because of course, I mean, if you think about Spotify, like this mythical Spotify model beast, which doesn't actually exist, is really years and years and years of Spotify going through things and making spectacular mistakes and trying things, and they're still doing that. So it's more important that we do that rather than try to emulate Spotify. Pixar, an amazing, creative, innovative space that was built up over decades, but we're not Pixar. If we want to create an innovative, creative space, how do we do that in our context? It's one of those things where use them as examples, look at them, pick them apart, but then take the pieces that you can use and use them, and take the pieces that you can't use and discard them. Find your own way. I think one of the powerful questions that you can embed in your organization is, what would happen if ... If people start asking that, what would happen if, and then chasing that, looking at it, tearing things apart, experimenting, making mistakes, learning from those mistakes, laughing at those mistakes, because I think we take ourselves way too seriously, particularly in this agile space, where on a day-to-day basis, I see on LinkedIn people going, what came first, Agile or Scrum? I don't care. Are we getting better over time? Are we making a space that's better for our people? Are we creating a space that's better for our customers? Are we creating a space where we can deliver amazing things to people and blow their hair back and excite them? And are the people that are building those things excited? And do they love what they do? If that's what you're doing, I don't care whether you use Scrum, I don't care whether you use Safe or Kanban or a mix mash of everything. If you're creating a space where people are excited and they're creating awesome, high quality things for other people, you're doing it right. And I really don't, I don't care for blueprints and playbooks. I care for passion and purpose. And I know it sounds soft. It's like, ooh, this is like warm and fuzzy, but it is the place where magic happens. So when you start to get into that space where you seem to be moving forward and you're picking up momentum, don't stop there. That's that country. Really start getting into the softer, more incredible, mind-blowing things. Creating a space of passion and purpose, and defining where you're going by what you love. And I know people get maybe a little twitchy about using the word love in terms of business, but if you don't love it, why are you doing it? In closing, I found this quote by accident. We're not here to rewire the world. We're here to create a world with fewer wires. It's unattributed. I would love to know who came up with that. But for me, it really settled in. It's something that I've really started to hold very close to me. We're not here to rewire the world. We're here to create a world with fewer wires. So something that is simple and powerful, with purpose and passion, that is people focused. We, the people, are creating awesome things for other people. And if we can connect all of that, I think we're in an amazing space. To get there, I think we're going to need to be a little bit more heretical. I think we're going to need to push boundaries. I think we're going to need to ask harder questions. I think we're going to need to run the risk of being excommunicated and burnt at the stake. But if we do, we create a space. And that is Heresy. So thank you. The result of action, not the cause of it. Thank you.
Thank you. There is those of you that have the website, some people answer questions, and hopefully we should be able to get some answers.
Okay, guys. Yeah, thank you so much again for the opportunity. Absolutely. Next time I hope I'll be with you. I see there's some questions. So what's the best resource for those that want to dive deeper into the subject? Wow, great question. Lots of reading and diverse reading. So I've read a lot of Seth Godin's books. David Marquet, his Turn the Ship Around was an amazing resource. Creativity Inc. By Ed Catmull, incredible book about the story of Pixar. The Netflix books, I think there's at least two books that talk about Netflix's journey. There's The Hard Thing About the Hard Thing. I think his name is Horowitz, an incredible book to read. I think the best resources is reading, talking, surrounding yourself with people that think differently. Yeah. How can you keep motivated, keep those agile choices on a daily basis? Focus on people, focus on the people around you, focus on creating a space that is better for them. Be a servant, put yourself out there, serve, support, just focus on people and how value and knowledge and information flow. Have Jon Snow days. So Jon Snow, Game of Thrones, approach the day with I know nothing. Start the day, I know nothing, I want to be curious. And I think if you put those things in play, I think you get into a really good headspace. So I hope that answers those questions.